Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 5 of Candyfloss by Jacqueline Wilson, continuing from chapter 10. Dad was waiting for me when we got out of school. Rhiannon's mum was standing next to him, obviously giving him advice. He was nodding politely, but when he saw me running across the playground, he rolled his eyes, pulling a secret, funny face at me. "Thank goodness," he said, giving me a big hug. "That woman's been bending my ear for the last 10 minutes. The stuff she was saying. Blooming cheek. She even suggested I try internet dating to get myself a girlfriend." "Oh, Dad, you're not going to, are you?" I asked anxiously. "There's only one girl in my life, sweetheart. She's very little, and she's got masses of curly hair and big blue eyes, and she goes under the name of Princess," said Dad, whirling me around. "Come on, let's get home. I've been shopping." "I thought we were short of money, Dad." "We are, desperately, but we might as well spend what little we've got. Who's looking after the cafe?" "Billy the Chip is meant to be keeping an eye on things," Dad paused, "though I doubt he'll be run off his feet." There wasn't a single customer in the cafe. Billy the Chip was glued to the radio, listening to the races at Newmarket. "Is birthday girl running again, Mr. Chip?" I asked. "Don't talk to me about that silly filly. She went all flighty and finished second to last," said Billy the Chip. "Still, let's see if you can bring me luck on the last race, sweetheart. Here are the runners. What do you fancy?" I peered at the list in the newspaper and then stabbed my finger at a name. Iced Bun. "That's the one. I had a lovely iced bun today with a cherry on the top. Bet on iced bun, Mr. Chip. It's a complete outsider, but I suppose I could risk a fiver if you're feeling lucky." "Put a fiver on for me too," said Dad. "All right, I'll nip down to the betting shop right this minute." Billy the Chip was so old and skinny and frail, he couldn't really nip. He crept in slow motion, having a rest and mopping his brow every few seconds. Dad shook his head. "Poor old Billy. I don't know how he keeps going. I worry about him still running that chip van. There are so many yobs in town now, especially late at night. He needs someone there if any of them cut up rough. He's got a son, but he's in Australia." We looked at each other. "It's obviously the in-place floss," Dad said, sighing. "Who wants to be one of the in crowd?" I said, taking his hand. "I'd sooner be us." Dad squeezed my hand back. "You mean all the world to me, little floss. Now listen here, lovey. I've bought a brand new iron from Argos and 5 pairs of white socks from the market and a shoe brush and some J-cloths too. So tomorrow we'll send you off to school super spick and span, I promise. And I've got a salad for your tea, and oranges and apples. You'll be absolutely vibrating with vitamins, the picture of health and beauty. I don't need that Rhiannon's mum muscling in. I'm going to be a brilliant dad from now on." "You've always been a brilliant dad, silly," I said. "No, darling, I've been a rubbish dad in all sorts of ways." He took a deep breath. "I'm in a bit of a pickle with the cafe, Floss." "I know, Dad. Don't worry. I'm sure business will pick up soon. And you've got me to help you now. I can be the waitress at the weekend. I promise you I can keep all my you can keep all my tips." "Oh, Floss, you're such a sweet kid. If only it was that simple. No, darling, I'm afraid I'm down and almost done for. I didn't spell it out before because I needed to sort out what I was going to do. Only I still haven't got a clue and time's running out." "Don't worry, Dad. Maybe Ice Bun will win its race and we'll make a fortune." "The odds would have to be 10,000 to 1 to sort things out for me, pet," said Dad. I tried to work out in my head how much we'd win at those odds. I needed Susan to help me with the maths. It was a waste of effort anyway. Ice Bun came in last. Billy the Chip trailed back from the betting shop looking defeated. "Well, that was a waste of time and money," he said. "I'm ever so sorry, Mr. Chip," I said, feeling responsible. "Let me get you another cup of tea." Billy the Chip smiled at me, patting me on his head with his shaky old fingers. "Little Miss Curly Mop, you're a dear girl. No wonder your dad's so fond of you. Here, I still owe you a birthday present." "No, you don't. Birthday girl came second to last. I'm rubbish at choosing horses, Mr. Chip. Take absolutely no notice of me in the future." Dad fixed me my special salad for my tea, and then spent hours ironing all my clothes with the brand new iron. He wasn't very good at it. The collars kept rumpling up, and he pressed odd sideways lines in the sleeves. "Maybe I could have a go, Dad," I suggested, but he wouldn't let me in case I burned myself. He sent me to bed early so I wouldn't oversleep in the morning. He sat beside me, one arm around me, while he read me a chapter of a story about a girl and a magic toad. The girl didn't have a mum. She just lived with her dad. "Maybe we need a magic toad," said Dad, "and a magic iron that does the ironing all by itself, and a magic money box that's always stuffed full of £50 notes. Dad, what is going to happen about the cafe? Will we have to sell it?" Dad swallowed. He closed his eyes. His lips puckered up. I thought for one terrible moment he was going to start crying. "The cafe isn't really mine to sell now, Floss. I had to borrow money on it. Lots of money just to keep things going. And try as I might, I haven't been able to keep up with the payments, so it looks as if they might close us down." "Will someone else come and run our cafe?" I asked. "I'm not sure, pet. Maybe. But will they come and live upstairs in the flat with us?" The thing is, Floss, the flat is all part of the cafe, and if I'm pushed out of the cafe, I'll be pushed out of the flat too. I saw us both being shoved into the street by a giant bulldozer. Oh, Dad, I said, clutching him. Oh, Lordy, I shouldn't have told you, especially now when you're just going to sleep. I am so stupid. I've kept quiet for months, mostly because I couldn't face up to it myself. I've just kept hoping something will turn up, that they'll give me another loan, anything. I just can't believe they'll make us homeless. But what will we do, Dad? I thought about the homeless people I'd seen on a trip to London. Will we live in a cardboard box? Oh, Floss, Dad spluttered. I didn't know whether he was laughing or crying. Maybe he didn't know either. Of course we won't be living in a cardboard box. No, love, you'll be fine. I'll get in touch with your mum and pop you on a plane to Australia. I should have made you go in the first place. It was so bad of me. But it meant so much to me that you wanted to stay with your old dad. I kept desperately hoping that business would somehow pick up. But no such luck. I'm not going to Australia, Dad. I'm staying with you no matter what, even in a cardboard box. I put my arms tight around his neck. Anyway, I like cardboard box houses. Remember, I used to sit in one when I was little, with all my dolls and teddies squashed in beside me, playing mothers and fathers. You were such a sweet little girl, said Dad, kissing the top of my curls. Now, you'd better settle down. Night-night, darling. You're not to worry, promise me. Of course, I worried. I didn't sleep for ages and ages, and when I did, I dreamed that our cafe and flat had turned into cardboard. It started to rain, and all the walls sagged and the floor split, and I barged through the cardboard door, yelling for Dad. When I found him, he looked so old and frail, and when I hugged him, he bent in half and crumpled in my arms, as if he was cardboard too. I woke up crying and ran to Dad, but he wasn't in his bedroom, even though it was now the middle of the night. I peered under his duvet. I lifted his pillow. I even looked under his bed. Then I heard little creaking sounds coming from the kitchen. I found Dad ironing away, my school blouses all round the room, hanging all off doors and pegs and racks, as if a flock of weird white birds were roosting in our kitchen. Dad? Hello, little sweetheart, said Dad, as if it was the most normal thing in the world to be up ironing at 3 a.m. What are you doing? You've already ironed all my school blouses. Yes, and I made a right muck-up of them, so I've damped them all down, and I'm doing them again, and again. This is my 3rd time, and they're still a bit sad and crumpled. They're fine, Dad. Leave it. Come back to bed, please. I can't seem to sleep when I do, yet I'm knackered in the daytime. I'm keeping Australian time. Maybe I should go and live there too. I thought about it, my heart thumping. Well, if we have to leave the cafe, why can't we both go to Australia? Maybe Steve could lend you the money for the fare. You could pay him back once you'd started working, and I could still live with you, but I could see Mum too. Maybe we could all stay there. You're being so brave, Floss, about missing your mum, said Dad. There's no chance of me going to Australia, though, pet. I'd never take a penny off Steve for starters, and I'd not be allowed into the country to work because I've no money and no skills. Yes, you have, Dad. You're great at running the cafe. Come off it, pet. I doubt I'd even get a job as a washing-up guy. I'd certainly not get a job in a laundry. Look, I've scorched your blouse. He held it up despairingly and showed me the brown mark. Never mind, Dad. Please, stop ironing. Maybe the mark will come out if I wash it again, said Dad. Then he saw my face. Sorry, pet. Your old dad's gone a bit nuts, that's all. Right, I'll stop ironing. He switched the iron off and stood in the middle of the kitchen in his old stripy pyjamas. Shall I tuck you up in bed, Floss? I'm not sleepy now either. So, what should we do? Said Dad. He shifted his weight from one bare foot to the other, considering. I know, he said suddenly. Let's go and have a swing. But it's the middle of the night, Dad, I said, wondering if he really had gone mad. There's no law says you can't have a nighttime swing in your own garden, said Dad. Put your coat on, sweetheart, and stick your feet in your welly boots. Dad put a thick jersey over his pyjamas and pulled on his own boots. Then we went downstairs, through the sad, silent cafe and out into the backyard. I thought it would be dark and scary, but there was bright full moon, making the yard look silvery and magical. We threaded our way through the bits of bike and all of the other junk. The rubbish bins had been emptied that day, so they hardly smelled at all. A little cat circled them wistfully, mewing for food. Oh, Dad, look, isn't she sweet? I said. I bent down a little clumsy in my boots. Here, puss. She looked at me, considered, and then approached me cautiously. Come on, then, I won't hurt you. I reached out my hand, and she came right up to me. She sniffed my palm hopefully for titbits, but seemed happy enough when I stroked her instead. She's a very thin little cat. Can we feed her, Dad? I asked. Dad was peering at her. She's black, isn't she? Black cats are meant to be lucky, aren't they? Even skinny little stray ones. OK, if she hangs around a while, I'll see if I can find a can of tuna. There, puss, you're so clever. Coming calling to a cafe. That's my dad over there. He's going to fix you a perfectly lovely meal in a minute. Perfectly. Hey, Dad, perfectly. Do you get it? Funny, Floss, said Dad. He sat himself down on the swing, kicking at the ground with the heel of his boot. The cat rubbed against me, nuzzling in and purring when I stroked the side of her neck. Her bones felt so tiny and delicate underneath her soft fur. I wonder if you belong to anyone, little cat, I said. You haven't got a collar on, have you? You don't look as if you've been fed for days. Dad, if she's really a stray, can we keep her? We can't even keep ourselves, Floss, said Dad. Well, we can all three be strays. You, me and the cat, I said. We can call her Lucky. You never know, Dad. Maybe our luck is changing right this minute. Yes. Whoops. What was that? A big pink pig just flew past my head, flapping its wings. You wait and see, Dad, I said, gently lifting Lucky up in my arms. She nestled into me, as if she'd known me since she was a kitten. We should be lucky. We should be so lucky. Lucky, 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 Dad sang, kicking off and swinging. Hey, this swing's lopsided. Oh, Floss, why didn't you say? It's fine, Dad, really. No, it's not, but I'll fix it for you tomorrow. Oh, dear, did Rhiannon remark on it when she came round? Not really, I hedged. I'm sorry. I let you down with Rhiannon. I know she's your best friend. She is, but I've got another friend too now, Dad. Can my new friend Susan come round on Saturday? Is she very posh and pernickety like Rhiannon, said Dad, swinging wildly, waving his boots. No, she's very clever, but she's quiet. Not a bit fussy or bossy, I said. I like her already, said Dad. It was lovely having Susan as my secret friend at school. We smiled and nodded at each other whenever Rhiannon wasn't looking. Most days we managed to meet up at the girls' cloakroom for a minute or two. We fixed it that she'd come at 3 o'clock on Saturday and stay for tea. Chip Butties, promise, said Susan. I promised. Chapter 11. I was so looking forward to Susan coming on Saturday. Then on Friday, Rhiannon ruined everything. She'd been hanging around with Margot and Judy a lot of the time. They often looked in my direction and whispered and giggled. What's the joke? I asked. You're the joke, said Margot. Like, your socks. Dad had tried hard with my new white socks. He was worried my birthday present dress and shoes were far too long, so he bought extra small children's socks. They were so extra small they were tiger size. It took me ages to prise them over my toes, and the heel came uncomfortably under my instep. The top of the sock kept getting sucked under the shoes each time I took a step, so every few seconds I had to bend down to pull them up. I'd have been much better off in my old navy socks, but I didn't want to hurt Dad's feelings. He'd mastered the ironing now, but our laundering system was a bit of a problem. We didn't have a tumble dryer, so Dad hung all my clothes on a rail on the kitchen. Yuck, chip fat, said Margot, pretending to sniff me and then holding her nose. Judy held her nose too. Rhiannon didn't, but she smirked and spluttered. I knew my clothes did smell of cafe cooking. I didn't know what to do about it. I tried sprinkling my school blouses with little leftover bottle of Mum's special perfume, but that made them hold their noses even more. They wafted their hands in the air and went pooh and phew. I felt like twisting their noses right off their faces. I also wanted to cry because the perfume made me miss Mum so much. I ran away, and this time Rhiannon came after me. For goodness sake, don't be such a baby, Floss. They're just teasing, she said. I'm tired of being teased. I can't stick Margot and Judy, I said. Oh, don't be daft. They're good fun, so long as you don't take them seriously. Margot's so cool. Do you know, she's got a diamond stud in her belly button. I wish my mum would let me get my tummy pierced. I bet she's just stuck it on, I said. And it won't be a real diamond. Well, so what? It still looks great. And she's got, like, such a flat tummy, too. I wish my tummy didn't stick out so. Still, I'm going to stay on this special diet and get super slim. You wait and see. You're super slim now. You know you are. Anyway, dieting's stupid at our age. You're just saying that because you're still so skinny. But you carry on eating all those chips and fry-ups at your dad's cafe, and you'll be like, ginormous. Rhiannon waved her arms in the air to demonstrate. No, I won't, I said, though I knew my dad was a little bit ginormous. Still, my mum's got this special healthy eating recipe book. She'll give it to your dad when he comes round to collect you on Saturday, said Rhiannon. I blinked at her. Collect me from where? I said. Rhiannon sighed impatiently. From my place, stupid. But you haven't asked me round to your house on Saturday, I said, my heart thumping. Well, I'm asking you now, said Rhiannon. Mum says you've to come for lunch and tea and bring a bag of all your clothes, and she'll put them in the washing machine and iron them for you. Don't look like that, Floss. There's no need to feel embarrassed. Mum doesn't mind, really. I can't come. Not this Saturday, I stammered. Why can't you come? It's all fixed, said Rhiannon. I've got to help my dad in the cafe, I fibbed. You're not supposed to work in the cafe. That's child labour. He can't make you. He doesn't make me do anything. I want to help. Well, you'll have to help some other time, because my mum specially cancelled her new highlights appointment at the hairdresser's just so she can be at home to look after you. Like I said, it's all fixed. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't possibly tell Rhiannon the truth. She'd never forgive me if she knew I'd invited Susan home. I moulded over miserably during the next lesson. I couldn't concentrate during history, and when Mrs. Horsfield suddenly asked me a question, I didn't have a clue what she was on about. She called me up to her desk when the bell went. "You're a little dolly daydream today, Floss. What's the matter, dear?" She was smiling at me sympathetically, not a bit cross. I hung my head and made one foot to a tiny little pointy dance on the floor. "Missing your mum?" Mrs. Horsfield said softly. I said, because I was missing her dreadfully. Sometimes when Dad wasn't around, I went and looked at the ticket in the kitchen drawer. I was determined not to use it, but it was good to know it was there. "But you're getting on well together, you and your dad," said Mrs. Horsfield. "Oh, yes. Dad's been lovely. He always is," I said. "That's good. Well, you certainly look a lot smarter today," said Mrs. Horsfield, looking at my newly washed hair, my clean blouse, my pressed skirt, my very, very small white socks, and my spotless shoes. I made the other shoe do a little dance, trying to pluck up the courage to ask Mrs. Horsfield what I should do about seeing Rhiannon on Saturday. "Yes?" Mrs. Horsfield prompted. I swallowed. I couldn't. I asked her something else instead. "Mrs. Horsfield, do I smell?" Mrs. Horsfield looked startled. "Oh, Floss, you're as clean as clean. You look as if you've just jumped out of a bath today." "Yes, but do I smell?" "Not of anything unpleasant," she said evasively. I sighed deeply. "Has someone been saying nasty things?" said Mrs. Horsfield, sounding angry. "No, well, they were just teasing," I said quickly. "Teasing can be horribly cruel. I don't suppose you're going to tell me who it was?" I shook my head, gazing at my feet. "You don't need to tell me. I'm sure I can guess. Don't you take any notice of them," she paused. "Oh, well, you'd better run out into the sunshine. I love sunny days like this. I put my washing out on a line, and it dries beautifully and smells of fresh air." I nodded gratefully and walked to the door. "Will you watch out for Susan for me, Floss? I think she's still a bit lonely. She could really do with a kind girl like you to be her friend." "Yes, Mrs. Horsfield," I said. I so wanted to be Susan's friend, but I was too scared to be a kind girl. I ran to the girls' cloakroom. Susan was standing in a corner, counting the tiles up and the tiles down, muttering each number. Then she saw me, and her mouth stretched into a smile. "Hi, Floss," she said happily. "I can't wait till Saturday." I took a deep breath. "Oh, Susan, I'm ever so sorry, but I can't make Saturday after all." Susan stared at me. It was as if I'd taken the smelly floor mop in the corner and shoved it in her face, smearing the smile away. "Did Rhiannon find out?" she said, her voice wobbling a little. No, it's nothing to do with Rhiannon," I lied. "No, it's just I've got to do stuff with my dad, that's all. But you can come on Saturday after. That will be okay, won't it?" "Yes, probably," said Susan, but her voice still sounded funny. We've still got chip butties," I said. "Yes, great," said Susan flatly. It was as if she knew. I told myself she couldn't possibly know. I pretended that everything was still perfectly fine. I would go to Rhiannon's on Saturday. She was my best friend, after all. I'd wear my rose quartz bracelet and play in Rhiannon's beautiful blue bedroom, and maybe I'd teach her how to make a friendship bracelet. Then, the next Saturday, I'd see Susan at my house, and we'd play on my swing and eat chip butties, and maybe she'd do all the things Rhiannon thought babyish or boring, like playing pretend imaginary games, or drawing pictures, or making tiny dolls' houses in cardboard boxes. Rhiannon was busy planning Saturday too. This Saturday. "My mum's going to take us shopping at Green Glades when you come this Saturday, Floss," she said loudly. "Shh," I hissed. Susan sat right in front of us. She was writing her comprehension, but her pen paused in mid-air. "It's okay. Mrs. Horsfield's over there helping Dumbo Diana," Rhiannon said. "Anyway, she won't pick on us. You're her total teacher's pet now. Anyway, Mum's going to get you some new socks and stuff, seeing as yours are like so weeny and weird." "Please, shh," I whispered. "It's okay, we all know it's not your fault. Mum's going to do it very tactfully. She's going to pretend I need new stuff, and then she's going to say, 'Oh, look, why don't I get a jumbo pack or whatever?' And then they'll do both. They'll do for both of you. She's got it all sussed. We're probably going to do some shoe shopping too. I told her you just have those crazy silver high heels to wear at home, and she says that you'll ruin your feet." Susan hadn't restarted her comprehension. She was too busy comprehending the situation. "We're going to this fabulous new restaurant for lunch. I'm going to have a mango smoothie. Yum! And then you get to choose all those different salads. It's like so delicious. Mum says she owes it to your mum to help you to eat healthily, seeing as you have to live on those chip butties most of the time." Susan's head bent low when Rhiannon said chip butties. Her hair fell forward. The nape of her neck looked white and forlorn. I wanted to reach right forward and pat her on her shoulder, maybe put my arm around her. I stayed stuck beside Rhiannon. She went on and on about seeing me on Saturday. There was still a tiny little bit of me that somehow hoped Susan couldn't quite hear. The bell went for the end of lessons. Susan stood up. starting to pack her bag. Rhiannon jumped up, barging past her, scattering her books on the floor. She didn't try to pick them up or even say sorry. "See you tomorrow, Floss," she bellowed, right in Susan's face. Susan dodged down, gathered her books and hurried out of the classroom. She clicked her fingers as she went, counting under her breath. "That swatty potty doesn't half give me the creeps," said Rhiannon. "She's totally nuts, isn't she, Floss?" I stared after Susan until my eyes blurred. "Floss," said Rhiannon, "what's up now? Don't you go all wimpy and weepy on me tomorrow. It's got to be a fun day, right?" It didn't feel like it was going to be a fun day at all. I told Dad about the change of plan. He raised his eyebrows when I said I was going to Rhiannon's. "I'll deliver you there and I'll pick you up whenever you want. But please don't make me come and talk to that wretched woman," said Dad. "So what about your little friend Susan? Is she going to Rhiannon's too?" I sighed at the impossibility of ever being able to explain to Dad the complications of the situation. I didn't really want him to know all the ins and outs anyway. He probably wouldn't say anything, but let alone tell me off. But I'd feel bad anyway. I was feeling very, very, very bad as it was. I hung my pink birthday t-shirt and special jeans over my swing seat as we didn't have a washing line in the backyard. I hoped the cool night air would make them feel fresh, smell fresh and beautiful the next morning. When I woke up I heard pattering on my window and it was raining hard. Oh no! I threw my Mac over my nightie, stuck my feet in my wellies and rushed out to the backyard. My clothes were sodden. My jeans had fallen right off the seat and were all muddy on the ground. My t-shirt had curled itself round and round like a Swiss roll, as if some little night creature had used it as a duvet. "Lucky," I called hopefully, momentarily distracted from the wet clothes disaster. I had so wanted her to stay with us. When she turned up in the middle of the night, I'd fed her a whole tin of tuna and given her a saucer of milk to lap. She'd mewed at me gratefully. She'd even given me a little lick of appreciation. I'd squatted beside her and stroked her, from her neat little head to the tip of her tail, and she'd wriggled happily and started purring. I thought she was making it as plain as could be that she wanted to live with me, but when I tried to pick her up gently and carry her indoors, she cried and struggled, scratching me. I had to let her go. She flew away from me, back behind the wheelie bins. I tried to wheel one out of the way so I could get at her, but she mewed at me indignantly and crammed herself into the furthest corner behind the biggest bin. "Don't fuss her, Floss," said Dad. "It looks like she wants to stay outside." "But it's all dark and smelly by the bins. She'd be so much happier indoors. She could share my bedroom. I could make it so safe and cosy for her," I said. "You can't force her in if she doesn't want to come," said Dad. "She's not our cat." "I so want her to be ours, Dad." "Well, leave her to be for now. She'll hang around if she feels like it. She'll decide whether she's going to be our cat or not." "Our Lucky," I said. I checked up on her 10 minutes later. I peered behind every wheelie bin. I peeped under every tarpaulin. I scoured the entire backyard. There was no sign of Lucky. "She'll have gone for a little prowl around, Floss. That's what cats do," said Dad. "But she will come back." "Well, probably," said Dad, "in her own good time." "Probably isn't definite enough," I wailed. "Oh, Lucky, where are you? You will come back, won't you? You really badly want to be our little Lucky black cat, don't you?" I listened hard for a tiny mew. If Lucky could bear me, could hear me, she kept quiet. I'd paced the backyard all the following evening, but there was still no sign of her. I got Dad to open a fresh tin of tuna, and I poured out another saucer of milk and waited tensely, hour after hour. A big ginger, Tom, came prowling past, but I hid Lucky's gourmet tea from him. Lucky herself didn't come near. I left her food out overnight, and it was nearly all gone in the morning, but I couldn't tell if Lucky herself had eaten it, or whether the ginger Tom had come back. On Friday, Dad had said gently that maybe we couldn't count on Lucky returning. Maybe she's gone back home, to her real owners, or maybe she's happy fending for herself, being a little street cat. "She'd be much happier with us," I said. "She'll come back, Dad, in her own good time, like you said." If she had come back during the night and had had a nap, cuddled in my t-shirt, she hadn't hung around to say hello this morning. I picked up my sodden jeans and t-shirt and squished my way back into the house. Dad was in the kitchen in his dressing gown, yawning and scratching. "Floss, have you been out to play in the pouring rain?" he said. He held up my clothes. "For goodness sake, we'll have to put them straight back in the wash. You should have kept them clean for visiting Rhiannon." I leaned against the kitchen table, helping myself to cornflakes straight from the packet. "Lucky might just have been in the backyard last night," I said. Well, we could do with some luck right now, right this minute," said Dad, looking through his post. There was a handful of bills and one scary white envelope with "Important" stamped in big red letters. Dad opened it up, read it quickly, shoved it in his dressing gown pocket, and then slumped beside me. He reached in the cornflakes packet for a snack. His hand was trembling and cornflakes spilled over the kitchen floor. "What's the matter, Dad?" My voice sounded creaky and croaky because my throat was so dry. I swallowed hard, but the cornflakes in my mouth wouldn't go away. "It's our notice to quit," said Dad. He breathed out, so hard that the cornflakes packet wavered and nearly fell over. I wrote to them begging for more time, explaining I'm now looking after my daughter full-time. I thought that might just sway them. I mean, what sort of heartless monsters would render an innocent little kid homeless? Well, now I've found out. We've got 2 weeks, Floss. 2 flipping weeks, and then we have to hand over the keys, or they'll send in the heavies. Dad bent forward, resting his head on the table. "Dad," I whispered. I lowered my own head, staring at him. His eyes were closed. "Please, Dad, sit up." "It'll be all right," I said, stroking his head. Dad groaned. I've let you down, darling." "No, you haven't. Here, Dad, let me make you a cup of tea." I bustled around, boiling the kettle and fetching a mug and milk and tea bags. I knew Dad would look up when it came to me pouring the boiling water, just in case I wasn't doing it safely enough. Just as I thought, he sat up straight the second the kettle switched off. "Here, I'll do it," Dad said, sighing. He made us both a cup of tea, and then sat sipping his, staring all around the kitchen. He looked at the greasy walls and the ancient cooker and the higgledy-piggledy cupboards and the cracked lino tiles on the floor. He stood up and stroked some silly old paintings I'd done at nursery school, each a red blobby figure with a big smiley mouth, all bearing the same title, My Dad. He picked up my plasticine rabbit models on the windowsill and my lopsided plaster ashtray and the plate I'd painted with big purple pansies because Dad said they were his favourite flower. "All my treasures," Dad mumbled, as if the kitchen were crammed with wondrous antiques. "We'll pack everything and take it with us, Dad," I said. "To decorate our cardboard box," said Dad. He shook his head. Sorry, I'm getting maudlin. "No, I'll manage. Maybe one of my old biker mates will let me kip in the corner of the living room for a bit, just till I get myself sorted." "Will they let me have a corner too, Dad?" I asked anxiously. "You're not sleeping on floors, darling. No, I'll wait till this evening, when it's morning in Australia, and then I'll phone your mum. We'll whiz you over to Sydney." "No, Dad." "Yes, Floss," said Dad firmly. "Now you go and find yourself some decent dry clothes, and forget all this bother for the moment. You're going to have a lovely day with Rhiannon." I wasn't at all sure about that. I dressed myself in my old jeans and my old stripy t-shirt. After burying my head in them to see if they smelled, it was so difficult to tell at home in the cafe because it all smelled so cosily of cooking. I brushed my hair and I brushed my teeth and I brushed my shoes. I did this varied brushing ultra thoroughly, and at each stroke of the brush I made a wish that our luck would change and that somehow or other Dad could stay cooking his chip butties forever. Billy the Chip came in to mind the cafe while Dad was taking me to Rhiannon's. He was clutching his racing post. "Come on, young Flossie, pick me a winner," he said. "Oh, Mr. Chip, I'm rubbish at picking winners. Birthday girl was hopeless and Ice Bum was worse. Have another go, darling." "What, you think it'll be third time lucky?" I said. "Yes," Billy the Chip said. "Look, third time lucky is running at Doncaster. We've got to back it now. What about you, Charlie? Shall I put something on it for you?" "I haven't got anything left to bet with, mate. I think it might be a bit of a waste anyway. Look at the odds. It hasn't got a chance." And that is where we will leave part 5 of Candyfloss by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic story and lots more stories and videos coming your way very soon. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.